What's up, everybody? Today we have a 2008 Camry. It's got the 2.4, I believe it is, and this thing blew a head gasket. So what we're going to be doing is, instead of a head gasket, we're going to do the whole engine, because we don't know the history of this engine either. So he wanted to do an entire engine swap because it is pretty bad. So this is going to be a multi-part video. I don't know how loose these were. Pretty loose. But this is going to be probably a multi-part video, and going to be doing full engine swap on this. I don't think I've ever done engine swap on one of these, but it should be pretty much like any engine swap. Take out sensors and all the accessory stuff. I do have a pick to get most of these connectors off, which already broken, and already broken. Never mind then. Don't need a pick for those. I'm sniffly. Well, all these are already broken, so we ain't gotta worry about breaking them since they're already broken. It's pretty common on these, but we'll use a pick on everything else that I can to eliminate breaking anything else. Like that. And I'll lift up on it and pull out. Come on. Try to do it one-handed and don't want to mess up anything. I know the light is blinding now. Okay, that worked out. But we're going to be taking off connectors and taking out everything that we don't need. I'm going to take the intake off also on this thing, just give me a little bit more clearance, because we will be lifting this up from the top. We're not going to be taking it out of the bottom. I think service data even says pull it out the top, if I remember correctly. But what I'm going to do first, I'm going to kind of tell you what we need to remove, then I'll remove it, come back, show you, so I'm not just taking like every nut and bolt off of this thing to kind of take up too much time. But first thing I want to do is take this intake box off, disconnect the battery, take the battery out, because we do have to get down inside of here. The radiator was busted, and I did put a new radiator in it because the head gasket blew so much that it popped the radiator tank. And then whenever I went to do it again, I had this right here up and the cap off just to spin it over. When I did, it blew water out of this. That's how bad a head gasket is blown on this engine. But we'll be doing it in steps. So my first step is to get the battery, air box, and then all this stuff out of the way. So to get this air box off, just have these little 10 millimeters here. You got some hose clamps, a couple connectors, little hose. And there's a hose clamp down here on the breather, and then this box should come out. I don't know why I'm so sniffly, but we'll get all this off. Normally, yeah, about to say, normally these hoses right here come off easy because they got the real big, easy to squeeze clamps right there. So let me get the battery out, get that off, then I'll show you what it looks like. And then after that, we'll start pulling hoses off and exhaust manifold, and then probably whatever connectors I can get out of the way. So you can see how much room we have now. We got it all off right here, this whole box. So I'm gonna go over with you what you have to do to remove them. So there's two plugs, one for like your little purge valve type thing on the breather. It's just a little one, squeeze tab. Then you got your throttle, not throttle body, your mass airflow sensor right here. Then there is a line that goes to your little purge right there, and I'll show you the box. So you got 3 bolts inside. Once you take your lid off, that's your little mass airflow, and then you can pull that out. Then I forgot on these models, it has the squeeze clamp on the one next to the throttle body, not 10 millimeter. There's your little valve right there. But you squeeze that, you got that hose that runs to your throttle body. This one runs to your valve cover, and this one's a little tighter than these right here. These right here you can squeeze with your fingers and move real easy. And then all of this comes out, and then this attaches to the breather box via that little connector right there. And you got 2 tins right on the front right here. And I'm gonna try to put like screws and stuff back where they come from, just so we can eliminate having to have a big pile of bolts and stuff. So I'm gonna put the ones from the breather back in here. And now what we can do is I'm gonna start pulling wires off. Be careful with these right here, they do break really easy. Like even on the other engine we got a used engine, but they broke that connector too. Let me set y'all down. But like I was saying, they broke that connector. There's a ground wire right here, by the way. Come on. That one don't want to pop off. This thing is your O2 sensor, which they're pretty sticky some of the times. I just gotta get this right here, this 10mm, and then there is a 10mm on the top that holds the wired harness on, and we can pull that off. And I think I can get to the fuel injectors as well, because they're on the back, and we'll disconnect those. Go ahead and disconnect this line up on the top. Let me just kind of show y'all. So we'll disconnect all the fuel injector wires, which they're covered in something. Move this clamp. I know I'm not showing y'all very well because I was reaching over. I'm giving a reach around. There we go. I don't want to use my pliers to pull it off, but there's a clamp right there, that hose that runs from the valve cover to your intake as well. And then once we get that off, we will disconnect the valve body connector. It's pretty tight, I'm going to do it one-handed. And then you got your fuel line, your connector connects right there, but that's part of a bracket that is on the throttle body. Then you're going to have a coolant line here, I think, evap line right there, but I think it just runs back to the intake. You can leave that on because I'm going to pull it all off with the throttle body and everything. And then we should be ready to start pulling the intake. Might be a bracket or two and a sensor or so back here, but we'll get to that as we need to. But like I said, first thing I'm going to do is take this wire and harness bundle off and lay it over to the side. Well, went a good bit further. Took the fans out, got fuel rail off, went ahead and disconnected all the wires over here, disconnected the radiator hoses, got the AC lines off, and there was like hardly any Freon in there. I mean, literally when I took it off, it probably sprayed out for like 2 seconds and it was done. So I checked it beforehand and I noticed the pressure was low. Like I just kind of took a screwdriver and put it in here, just kind of checked pressure, and there was hardly any pressure, so I figured it wasn't much. Whenever I took the lines off, it just went like that. But if you do not have an AC machine, get the AC drained if you can. Don't just let it out into the air because that is illegal. But we do have all the lines off. We got AC, we got a lot of the connectors off, and it does bolt down somewhere underneath here. I just can't see where it is at the moment, but I just unbolted the fuel rail. I will take it off later, but here it is. I want to make sure I show y'all right. That just pops down, and then you get a little tool that goes up inside there. You push it in a little bit, and then you just push it down inside there and it'll pull right off. They make little quick disconnect tools, or you can actually get a piece of a plastic drink bottle or something just small enough to go around that little lip, go down inside there, push it in, and it'll slide right off. You know, there's a million different ways you can do those, but that's just, I just use the regular tool because I do have it, because I use it so much. Now I'm at the point where I am going to take off these heater hoses, and then take off the throttle body coolant lines. If I can get it to rotate. There we go. Here's your connector for your throttle body. But squeeze that, and there's one on the bottom. To make this easier, I may pull the throttle body off of here just so I can get to this bottom one, because it'd be a lot easier if I do that. I wish they would have put it on top. It would have made it easier on everybody. Excuse me, sorry, I'm burping a little bit, but made it easier on everybody. But these are just little 12 millimeters. You can pull them off. I think I got most of them loose. But after we do this, we can start pulling intake bolts off. I think there's a bracket support. I cannot remember. I'll let y'all know whenever I find out. Y'all will find out. So it is going to come off just to give us a little bit more firewall clearance. And I took the fan out. The way we take the fan out, so on the fan, you got these little squeeze tabs right here. Should be 3 of them. 1, 2, and then one's over here. You can get the fan out past the exhaust manifold. Is a little tight between here and there. But just take your time, be careful, don't break anything, and make sure you don't, you know, crack the plastic. And it kind of can get hung up on this, so don't break the neck off. You'll regret it. And then there's 2 connectors. One's black, one's gray, and one's shorter than the other, so you can't get them mixed up. This one's your AC fan, one is your regular cooling fan. But what was it? Oh, take the throttle body off. But yeah, once we get this throttle body off, I'm going to pull the bolts off of here. But once we get the throttle body off, we can get, it will help you a little bit because you can get to the manifold bolts a lot easier. Where's my pliers? Over here. But once you get the throttle body off, it will give you a little bit more clearance to get the intake bolts off. It's just this hose on the back. It can pull right off. See where they got that one? It's right there on the bottom. When I redo it, I'll put it on the top. And I'm moving it all around. Just trying to do all this one-handed. I'll just come that way with it. And now, see, you can get to everything a lot easier. You got a lot more room. You can reach up in here. I did take that off. We have a 10 millimeter right there that holds this coolant line. I think it is. Or yeah, I think it's a coolant line. But you got 10 millimeter that holds that. And then once you get the intake off, part of the wiring harness right here, I think, runs underneath the intake as well. So that's why we can't get the wiring to move too good. So that's our next step. Once I get the intake off, I will show you where all the bolts are, and if there's bracket and all that good stuff, I'll show you where all that stuff is, and you'll see how much more clearance we'll have to lift this engine up out of here. And we'll probably use one of these intake manifold bolts and the exhaust manifold bolts to actually lift the engine out, because those will let us level it out. Like I'll put one here and there, or vice versa. Or if you got 2 on each side, you can put on the first and last on each side and lift it straight up. That'll give you a lot more, like, leveling. I couldn't think of the word, but it let it level out a lot better. Alright, so I'm gonna be honest, don't know where we left off because it's been a few days. I had to run out of town and can't remember where exactly we left off. So what I'm going to start back with is, I think the last thing we did was got the intake off, and it's sitting back there. I was trying to figure out how to get it out, as it is pretty tight back there, and I know that we couldn't get it to come out for some reason. So I'm going to play with that a little bit, and I got a lot of stuff out of here. We got fans out, all the heater hoses are disconnected, have a lot of the sensors are disconnected. I think all this is for your alternator. That's your AC compressor. Your VVT solenoid back here. Here's all of your injector wires. Here's your ignition coils. Fuel rail is right here. Did not want that to happen, but just be mindful of that. These will fall out easy. But fuel rail is right there, and I think that's where we were. We were right there where we had pulled the intake out. I got all the bolts out. Bolts are pretty hard to get to on a couple of them in the car. Without them being in the car, you can get to them real easy. Don't know if you can pull it with intake on. I just want to take the intake off just because it does give me a lot more room to get underneath there. So let me see if I can fish this out of here. If I can, then next thing we're going to do is start on this, and if I get it out, I'll bring y'all back and let you know how I got it out. I think I found out how we got to pull this intake out of here. And so there's two studs in the engine, right here and right there, to hold the intake on. They're E7 on the tips. See how they got the stars? They're E-Torques, so they're an E7. And I do believe that is why we couldn't get it out, because they were hitting that. Let me set y'all up. We're going to see if we can pull this out. I'll show y'all how we do this. Get y'all set up now. Let's see if we can clear this sucker out of here now. It is a little awkward to hold. Wiring harness a little bit. So I did manage to get the intake out, and the way I did it was took the valve cover off. I did notice that it was hitting the valve cover, and the valve cover sits up about this much higher. I don't know how much I can tell, but it sits up probably roughly 3 inches higher. So once I took that out, you was able to clear, and this moves a little bit, so it cleared and come right out. It's right here, and I wanted to show y'all where the bolts are on this thing. So it sits in here like this. So it sits in here like this. This bolt right here is a nightmare to get to, and so is that one. But this right here just holds on to the bottom of the engine, and so does that one. Then bolts down in there, one here, there, and then that one. That one and that one is the stud that we pulled out, and then that one and that one just attaches to the engine. You do have a wiring harness that clips here and there, and then you got a vacuum line and vacuum line. But that is pretty much your intake. And you can see this right here is pretty dirty, and the gasket is super hard. Just the middle pieces are flexible. But that's your intake. So I just took the valve cover off. It took me all of 5 minutes to do it at this point because nothing's attached to it. There's chain. And I'm just kind of looking at it. Everything inside of here. But I figured I'd just give y'all an update on that and how I got it out. I'm just going to throw the valve cover back on for the time being, just to cover all that up. I mean, I ain't worried about this engine getting ruined because it's already ruined, but I just want to throw that back on, just eliminating me dropping anything down in there that I actually need. But now, after I put that on, we're going to take this cover off. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like 12 millimeters. Take this cover off, then you'll have your exhaust manifold bolts underneath there. Let me take this cover off, throw that back on, and then once I get this off, I'll show you what the manifold bolts look like. Here's our manifold right here. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got to take your alternator off to do this, and I already took the belt off. The tensioner is, you can see that one right there, and you pull it towards the front of the car, and it takes a 14 millimeter. I just used a 14 and put another wrench inside and like interlock them just to get it to come down some. Kind of show y'all, and I just kind of interlocked it like that, just to give you a little bit more leverage, because there is a giant spring that attaches to that. And take this alternator off, you got a bolt goes through right here. The nut is made onto the back of the alternator on this side, but that should be a 14, and then you should have another one. I'm trying to see if I can see it for you, but you're gonna have another one on the bottom. I can't show it to you, but it's like right on the bottom. Once I get it out, I'll show it to you, but it's pretty much, if you look straight down, it's gonna be straight down, even with the bottom of this, just about. And they both should be 14s, I believe, but if it's different, I'll let you know. Here is your alternator. The bottom one was a 12. I couldn't remember if it was 12 or 14, but here it is. Like I said, it's like where that little piece is, a little round hole, comes straight down, and there's your other bolt. Set it down right here. We're just setting everything on the ground, and now you can get a better look at that bolt, and we can get that and then pull it off, and we'll have that. Then pretty much after that, all we have to do is do the bell housing bolts, the motor mounts, take the harmonic balancer bolts out, and then I think after that we're about ready to lift her up. So let me finish taking this off, and then I'm gonna pull the starter, take the starter off. I'm just gonna leave it hooked up. I'm not even gonna take it off, but I'm just going to take it loose from the transmission, because I do believe it goes into the bell housing area on the engine. But this bolt and that bolt, and it should just slide right out. And from looks, those are 14s. Got the bolts out of the exhaust manifold. It won't move still because there's another bracket on the bottom underneath there. I did disconnect it. Down there's two 14 millimeters, and there should be another place that it attaches to that will allow you to pull it away from the engine after you unbolt it on the other side. Whenever I put it on the lift and get underneath there and do the rest of it, I'll show you what all that is. But right now I'm kind of at a stopping point. Took this little bracket off, just thread the bolts back in. It's 14s. Those down there are 14s. Starter's 14. I was thinking about a different car whenever I was thinking about they go all the way through. These do not, but I wanted to move that anyway, just so I don't hit it whenever I'm rotating the engine over and stuff. I'd rather not take the chance of messing up the starter or anything. I know it won't, just because it's not engaged, it's not touching the flywheel or the ring gear, but you know, anything can happen, and I always like to take precaution. It's only 2 bolts anyway, so it ain't like it's a big deal. Took out some of the bell housing bolts. One here, there's still one in there, right down there. Those 3 are 17s. Left that one on there because that's going to be the last one I pull before I start pulling the engine. Then there's one down in behind the motor, this little transmission mount. There's one down in there. That is a 14. Then there's a 14 down in here as well that we got out, and then there should be, I think, 4 more on the bottom if I remember. There should be 4 more on the bottom that we take off, and then there should be a cover we can get access to the torque converter bolts. But like I said, this is probably just going to end today's little journey and all that stuff, just because I'm just working on this here and there in between other stuff that he has going on for me. So this isn't like a super rush job. It's we'll get to it when we get to it. type deal, because he does have a lot of other things that more pressing and stuff here and there, so he's just getting me to do this in between all that. But I guess I'll see on the next day that I work this. Probably tomorrow I'll work on it, but I do have a couple of little things. I gotta work on this forerunner real quick. Did neutral safety switch. I did a shift interlock as well, because the shift interlock on that one was messed up, but it was throwing a code for the neutral safety. And now it does have a lean fuel trim code on it as well. We're trying to chase down, so figure out where that's coming from, and if it's something worthwhile filming, we'll film it. But like I said, see you next day whenever we do this. I don't know if this will be the end of the first video or not, but we'll see how long everything is.